The names that I've heard the most, and granted, I would caution about people, saying that these are the ones, but the names I hear the most are Senator Scott, Doug Burgum, and Marco Rubio. And some of the criteria that I sort of hear is that Donald Trump wants someone that he gets along with, and I think Doug Burgum, they've come to appreciate sort of how he's not flashy and taking attention, but he's just sort of been like steady and growing in sort of their relationship. Plus, they both kind of have the same background. They're both successful businessmen. They both understand, money and politics, and that's something that I think Donald Trump can relate to. Is how it's been presented to me, and then there's a huge other list of other names that we've heard. Virginia is a very interesting state to try to pull attention, and he recently said Youngkin should have been on the list, or is on the list, as someone he is interested in. And I'm actually in Virginia for another kind of race coverage as we speak for the Bob Good
Oh, are you
Maguire race.
covering the 7th? Because I see Derek Anderson won the primary yesterday. We were big Derek Anderson supporters in the 7th. He's going up against Eugene Vindman. Is that what you're covering?
I was actually covering Bob Good and John Maguire's primary race, but
Who's
I do
winning?
know. Well, John Maguire. So the backstory: Bob Good is one of the 8 who voted to kick out Kevin McCarthy. He also backed Ron DeSantis, which Donald Trump didn't like. So now Trump is involved in the race, in addition to about at least half a dozen other House members. John Maguire appears up about 200 votes. The race has not been called, but last night around midnight at his victory party, each candidate was having a victory party per se, but they both can't be victorious. John Maguire claimed victory and said it's an honor to be a Republican nominee. So there still could be a recount. We're still waiting for the final, kind of votes to roll in, because it was super close, and perhaps within the margin of a recount if Bob Good decides to initiate it, or if it's within an automatic trigger. But
There are a few
there
people
is.
I trust, like Decision HQ. There are a
Mhm.
couple other people that I trust. Has anyone called the race?
No, the race has not been called. They're saying that Maguire looks like he's in a good position, but if there's going to be a potential recount, then they're not going to
Yeah, the rule of
also.
thumb, Olivia, I wrote a book 20 years ago, If It's Not Close, They Can't Cheat, where I did the history of election fraud and all that stuff. If you're not within 1,000 votes, it's over. But if you're within 500, the recount can change things. So I don't
Yep.
know how Virginia recounts. Do you?
Um, there's I think my understanding is Bob Good could pay for a recount if it's within 1%, and if it's within half a percentage point, the government pays for it.
So it will be.
So
There
there's a
will be a
chance. There was
recount.
still some votes that were not counted. I think when I went to bed last night, I had to drive home, so I got home around 1:30 a.m. But I think everyone's watching to see this, and there's this I've never really seen, besides maybe Liz Cheney's primary, so many Republican members getting involved to try to fight to oust one of their own
Well, because
colleagues.
Bob Good is a horse's rear end. I mean, it's incredible to me that he's within shouting distance of a recount because nobody likes him. I mean, nobody like. Does anybody like who endorsed Bob Good?
Bob Good's DC endorsements are almost all, besides Matt Gaetz, who's sort of adjacent, are all Freedom Caucus members. But there was this sort of weird political moment where a Freedom Caucus member endorsed against Bob Good, which we're going to see how that fallout plays out next week. But uh, they usually try to at least pretend to be very united, at least publicly, even though they have their own internal divisions, and that those internal divisions have grown over the
Well, Matt
years.
Gaetz is
But
going to
Warren
get thrown
Gates.
out on ethics, and Bob Good gets thrown out by the voters. I hope this brings some discipline to the knucklehead caucus, Olivia, because they overthrew McCarthy for no reason whatsoever because of the ethics investigation, I guess, into Matt Gaetz. But if Bob Good loses, I'll be popping champagne here in the studio. Hey, Olivia, I want to thank you. If you're up to 1:30 and you're up this early and smiling, I appreciate it very, very much. Olivia Beavers at
I'll be a
Politico.
zombie
Follow her
later.
on X. Yeah, you're smiling. You know, when I work to 1:30 in the morning, or I've done all night shifts on election night, I don't smile. But I might do the show the next morning, but I don't smile. Thank you, Olivia.